Good evening. We'll begin in just a moment. Okay, I'm not gaveling this meeting to order because it was gavelled to order earlier so that we can conduct student interviews and executive session. We are just now returning from executive session to discuss student representative application qualifications, negotiations, and the superintendent evaluation format. So we will return to a special business meeting, and shortly thereafter we will move to workshop format. But I would like to first turn to Director Jackson for a land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We are on Indigenous land. This land is the home of the Snohomish people for uncountable generations past, generations present, and uncountable generations future. This is the home of the Coast Salish peoples, of peoples who were signatories to the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855, of peoples who have become part of the Tulalip tribes, peoples who stewarded this land and had relation with the other than human life of this place for generations, and whose contributions to this place have created the conditions for us to be here learning today. We acknowledge and thank these people for their timeless care of this place now and ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our special business meeting will be brief. There is no public comment period to this. Once we transition back into the workshop format, we will open for discussion on the items on the agenda in their turn. As usual, if you are in person and would like to make a comment during the workshop, please just give a wave, raise your hand, whatever you'd like, and we'll get you a microphone so you can be heard by those watching at home or later on the recording. If you are on the Zoom call and would like to make a comment, please note your name and location in the Q&A function. Just hit enter on that right away and then start typing on the comment you'd like to make. Please do make it a complete thought, because there's not just I agree with that, because there's every possibility and indeed every likelihood that we will have moved on from the topic you are agreeing with, and we don't want to misattribute your agreement. That being said, we have only one action item on our special business meeting now, which is a roll call vote to select the next student representative to take Representative McKnight's position as he moves on to other things. Excellent. So we'll get you a chance to, we're just starting the roll call vote right now for student representative. We'll move first to the advisory votes for our student representatives. Representative Dobmeier, how do you vote?
I will be abstaining, but I'm very excited to work with whoever is selected.
Thank you very much. Representative McKnight.
We have three very amazing candidates, so I also will be abstaining.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will go in order of tenure. Director Greenherron.
I echo Representative McKnight's assessment of the three candidates. It was hard to decide in thinking of the strengths of the candidates and what the board would like to see in a representative. I'm casting my vote for Alex Zielinski.
Okay, Director Jackson.
Thank you. I too struggled with this decision. Three highly qualified, really exemplary candidates. But I am going to cast my vote for Louisa Russo.
Thank you very much. Director Downs.
I echo what's the comments that have been said, and I am casting my vote for Stella Boblet.
Thank you very much. We will actually be turning to Director Johnson, if you have a vote to make in this.
I actually don't have a vote because I was not able to be here for the executive session. So I trust my fellow school board to make that decision.
Thank you. I knew that ahead of time. I just wanted to be able to get the abstention on the record. So we have three candidates, each of whom have one vote at the moment. I think that is indicative of the quality of candidates that we had. Each of them had exemplary qualities, and I'm excited to hopefully work with all three of them in various roles. I will be casting my vote for Louisa Russo, and we will be inviting her to join us as the next student representative to the school board. Thank you very much. I will email each of the three candidates after this meeting. We will now leave the special business meeting and transition to the workshop, adjourn the special business meeting and move on to the workshop format. The first item on the workshop is a presentation by our equity team. So I will turn it over to the two of you, or to the group of you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for letting us be here tonight and present a little bit about the equity team that we've been working on since 2023. My name's Kyla Stelling. I work at South Whidbey High School as the ethnic studies teacher and an ELA teacher.
Hi, thank you everyone for having us, as Kyla said. My name is Jenny Holbrook and I work for Readiness to Learn, and I work at South Whidbey High School and Middle School with our McKinney-Vento students.
Yeah, so the two of us are both team leads for the equity team. In front of you, you have our team handbook. This is an internal document that we've put together that's based on the memorandum that was sent out to you earlier. Just clarifying some things for our team members, specifically around roles and responsibilities, and also just restating like our goals and actions and measures of impact, as well as our charter, which we're hoping to have approved eventually. And then also there's a breakdown a few pages in of the roles and responsibilities of each of our team members. And we really wanted to have this clear to everyone on the team so that we can see like what kind of representation do we have, who are the voices that are involved, and then how are they also garnering even more voices from all of the community stakeholders who are part of our learning community. But yeah, Jenny, if we're going to have you just go over a little bit about some of the things that we talked about last year when it came to developing focus areas for the work that we wanted to do as a team.
We don't mind sharing, but yeah, so if you refer to the page right before those roles and responsibilities, the equity metrics dashboard, one of the things that we talked a lot about last year in our meetings was how do we actually measure this, progress being moved forward. And I think especially in the area of equity, it can be challenging and it can be easy to put words down and have really all the best intentions, but not necessarily have measurable goals and outcomes. So you can see we've got several focus areas here with performance indicators, measurements, data source, and frequency. And this is, a living document. We're really open to other ideas and this flowing and changing on the based kind of on the district's need and the student need.
On our team currently, we have 3 student representatives who are all students of color. We have 2 9th graders and 1 11th grader. We have a teacher, 2 teacher representatives, myself included in that. We have the superintendent. We also have Christy Macaro. We have 2 community members as well. And so the way that we've structured things with community is to have these 2 members as liaisons to a then community advisory group that also works really closely with equity team. So that advisory group is separate from our core group, but that can involve like more students, family members, other community folks that are just really invested in our schools. And we have hosted meetings after our core team meetings to make sure that we're having that interaction with folks who are interested in, again, really invested in this work. So we're trying to, again, garner all of the voices that we can, really have it inclusive. And we've begun to do that with staff as well. So we've showed up in a few different staff meetings and just done a general presentation and let them know, like, we're here, we want to involve you if you have any thoughts or ideas. And then we also had our first staff training last week on Wednesday. It was in K through 12, and it was led by community members and students. It was a student panel on microaggressions that they had experienced. So it was more of an awareness training that we started off with, and now we're hoping to move towards like supporting educators with developing tools to then maybe address some of these issues that we're noticing could be improved upon to create that culture of care that we've been working on for the past few years.
So some of our next steps are mentioned on this. Oh, I think actually they're mentioned in the memorandum, which you guys should have been able to see. I think that was sent out to you guys But we really want to keep finalizing short and long-term goals. And again, as Kyla has mentioned, we really want this to be collaborative in nature with teachers and staff and students and community members, families. Keep assigning roles and responsibilities and just really reviewing timelines for policies and curriculum and working on how can we keep embedding more cross-curriculum of equity and ethnic studies and developing an implementation performance matrix as well.
Yeah, right now we'd like to open it up to any questions that folks may have.
First of all, thank you very much, not just for the presentation, but for the handout. I appreciate being able to look over this stuff at our leisure, because there's clearly a lot of work that's gone into this, and I want to be able to appreciate it in my time, because I'm a nerd and I like to get into the details of things. I'm really excited to see a focused effort here, and hope that there are fantastic ways that we can continue to engage at a board level with this work, whether it's through professional development for us, making sure that we're financially supporting the efforts as necessary, and making sure that we're hearing back also, so that we're not just setting you out in the wild and assuming that everything's happening. I'm certain that it will, but I'd love to make sure that we're hearing how things are going so that we can make any changes that we need to at our level.
Thank you for initiating that sentiment and that intention. That is actually something that we were excited to talk to you about today as well. And something we had envisioned was just having a really good relationship with the board and providing frequent reports on what we're doing. And again, getting involved in trainings with us, either at the district level or if we go off island to other opportunities for equity-based training. It would be amazing to have that partnership with you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to see you all in the room and hear a little bit more about what you're doing. You mentioned an advisory committee. I'd love to hear more about that, like who's in the room, who is still missing from the room, and how we can support you in finding folks a place at that table and a place of belonging in that advisory as part of this loop.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. I really appreciate that question. I think that's really important. The community advisory group, we are happy to share their information. They are meeting, we meet with them every other month, as Kyla mentioned, as an extension of our regular monthly meetings. The advisory group, I believe, is meeting twice a month right now. And I think just more outreach into the community and, people who, or you may see who should have their voices in the room. That's exactly what we want. We want this networking, and we want everybody to say, hey, we know this family or this person that would be a good voice, and definitely connecting them to that group. And yeah, we can get you more information, get you that contact info.
Yeah, that sounds great, because I'd love to offer people the autonomy of connecting with you directly and knowing how to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited about this because I feel like this packet reflects both the depth and breadth of work that this topic deserves, and also the reality that this is sometimes slow, relational, iterative, and yet the relatively slow pace of culture change shouldn't be an excuse to avoid making real measurable changes that affect the lives of students today. And so I really see that dynamism in this document that you've prepared, and I just want to acknowledge how rare and difficult that is, and I think you're achieving it, and it's pretty exciting.
Thank you, Director Jackson. Yeah, with this document, I think it is a starting point. It feels like a lot of words right now, but our big goal is to make sure that things are organized, and we're really going to begin to develop this performance matrix to think about, how are we implementing these changes, to what extent on like a policy level, of like in the classroom or in various environments that our students encounter every day. And then what are we noticing insofar as the outcomes, the either intended or unintended, and then how do we want to be really strategic in then maybe shifting our focus or just taking next steps in a certain direction. And what I've noticed over the years in my work in education and also with equity is organization is key, as well as vision. So having that continual support from people that have power within our educational system is really important to keep that organized as well, so that that structure can be consistently supported. But thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to agree with that and add that I think too often these things that feel like culture work can get put by the wayside because we want to focus on, you know, the cold hard facts of education. But data supports the fact that when we do this culture work well, it uplifts our academic performance for every student, and that when students who have been historically least served in educational settings are better served, every student flourishes. And so I just really appreciate the energy of centering this work, as it is at the root of all of our thriving. Thank you.
I have a thought / charge for the board and the leadership team, which is similar to how when the board sets goals for the district and the superintendent, and those flow down to SIPs so that there's alignment between the leadership team's work and the school improvement plans. I would like to see us take this equity team's work into a consideration when setting next year's goals. So at the very least, we're not directing the superintendent to work at cross purposes with these, and ideally they're somehow reflected in the goals so that we get the alignment in this work as we see in the classrooms and the buildings as well.
Absolutely agree. We had mentioned at one point adding an equity looks like statement after each of our goals. And I'd love to A, do that this year, and B, get the input of the equity team in crafting those statements. Because I think that it's important that it's not just the board members, not just the leadership team crafting that and deciding what equity looks like, but crowdsourcing it, for lack of a better term, to figure out what it looks like to everyone.
Do you feel that you have channels to ask for what you need as a team for this effort to be as successful as possible?
I would say so far, yes, we have had a lot of support from leadership throughout the district. The one thing I would ask of like everyone who's here today is that just is continued support, and it can't necessarily be like reactive to us asking, but just proactive as well. Because I think that sometimes is what happens in this work as well, is that we'll like implement something, but then maybe there's pushback to it or something else, and it just kind of disintegrates or falls apart. But if like actively remembering like that we're working in this way and collaborating together would be really beneficial to keep it going.
Thank you.
I want to be very careful that we don't step on the superintendent's toes. But I'd love to see at least a yearly check-in, plus as needed. Like base level, we check in with the equity team once a year. And then if there's something that has come up major that should be something to us, bring it to the board level. But I know the superintendent will be part of that team, as you were saying, or associated very closely. So I don't want to get in between that relationship there, but I do want to make sure that you have what you were saying, that open opportunity that we've specifically not just opened the door, but invited you into it, plus the invitation for as needed.
My mind is percolating and I have some ideas. So
I too will look for the superintendent's direction about that reporting interval, but I might suggest that some things that are important enough get reported more frequently, like our financial reports, for instance. And there are some topics that are better served by a deep dive on an annual cycle. So I would look to our equity team and our superintendent to help us decide the interval or practice that will best support the work to keep growing.
Sounds great. Is there any other comments or discussion here? I'm just going to check Zoom real quick to make sure that there hasn't been anything else come up. Oh, yes, let's get Mike.
All right, this really excites me. Getting the community input. I'm curious to what kind of forums you guys have been hosting, where and how's that been working for you? But I'm excited to hear that community component. We have a very unique community. Back when I was a high school student versus now, there's been a lot of change, and we need to be pro-change and changing with it and being supportive of the community that it is. and the people in our community. So I'm kind of curious to know what's that look like as far as the structure and people coming and all that. Thanks.
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate the question. And yeah, as I was telling Anne earlier, I think we're happy to make sure that anyone who's interested has the information and the contacts for the community advisory group. And I know that they want as many voices as possible in there, so we can make sure that you're connected to that. And again, we're meeting with them every other month and making sure that they're involved and their input is there. They actually put on our training last week and it was amazing. So they had a really big role in that. And we appreciate any and all momentum and energy, definitely, and getting everybody heard.
Okay, if that's everything, we'll move on from there. Thank you very much. Looks like some amazing work happening so far. We look forward to hearing more about it at a mutually agreed upon timing.
Thank you for the time to speak with you this evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, we will now move on to the policy review section. We have 4 items of policy to discuss. First one is South Whitby School District policy. Each of these has been recommended by WASDA, Washington State School Directors Association, as essential or recommended. I'll turn it over to Director Downs.
Okay. So, starting with policy around the course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials. This policy has some language that is struck through that I believe would be in conflict with our curriculum adoption policy. So as we take a look at these, I think we can, of course, make our decisions. But I think, for example, the 3 paragraphs that are struck through, I believe we should keep, would be my opinion. And that's kind of the main piece with it. The rest is kind of the minor language change. But if we get down to page 2, there is the selection of adoption of instructional materials, and there is some conflicting language because there are some executive orders which are not federal laws, but we may want to look at some of our language around that. So I will open that up to you all.
Why is WASDA striking through those first 3 paragraphs, if we know?
I have not heard from them why they were doing that. That's certainly something that I can reach out to or one of us can reach out to their policy folks, because I also had the same concern.
Well, I think there's also pieces that we have modified of our own. So like, for example, I know that the second paragraph, that was one that we chose to put in. And the third paragraph as well. So it may not be that WASDA is striking it, but that their language just differs from ours on its face, and that ours goes deeper.
I think you're right on that one, that these are things we specifically added and can retain, but I would like to check with legal to make sure that there isn't a new state law issue or something like that.
Yeah, because I too would echo that unless there's like a really compelling reason to get rid of those 3 paragraphs, I think they're pretty good to keep.
Any other thoughts on this one?
What was the other item that you were talking about? Executive orders, which section?
Page 2, section 3, selection and adoption of instructional materials. So the way that I view this is it to me reads similar to our protection of undocumented students and their families, where we recognize that we needed to adjust some of the language. I don't know that we are at a point right now where we need to adjust language. And I'm always happy to come back to policies.
Well, and we do need to make sure that we are following both federal and state law as they are applicable. So I definitely think that that we need to make a change there, we certainly should.
Yeah. So I think if we're looking at one to run by legal, this would be one.
What are we looking at to change in section 3 again?
So the strike through is applicable state and federal laws, and currently there are federal executive orders that are in conflict with our state and federal laws. And so the question is, do we proactively adjust the language and see if federal law changes, or do we keep it in alignment with what it currently says?
Yeah, I don't think this is actually a language change, just a format change, because that last paragraph or last sentence in
Oh,
the
you're right.
paragraph above,
Yeah,
all those things are still there. They're just put into a single sentence.
formatting change. So cool. So we'll keep those
Furthermore,
pieces.
it does specifically say federal laws,
Yeah.
which an executive order is explicitly not.
Yes. Correct. Okay. So I believe what I'm hearing us come to recommendations for what we're moving forward is we are keeping the strike throughs on page 1, but we will adjust for the language changes, such as like improving versus the improvement, growing instead of growth of.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with those little language changes.
Sweet.
And by keeping the strike throughs, you mean keeping the passages that were struck through by removing the strike throughs, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
And just make sure that those weren't struck through based on any recent state law. I don't imagine they were. I think you're exactly right in where they came from, but just making sure.
Cool. All right.
All right. So when I looked over this in the agenda, the first paragraph stood out to me, and I have a couple questions put out there. Thank you. I'm not wearing my glasses. I appreciate that. The board recognizes responsibility of improving the growing schools educational program. What I'd love to see, and we're already kind of on the topic with the last presenter, is to get an element of community input. I know at previous meetings we talked about a curriculum committee. I know there's one with staff and educators and that kind of thing. I would love to see that be an aspect of this. At our recent town hall meetings, this was a huge topic as far as the community having input on the curriculum and the topics in a sense, and it would be great to get that input because we've got such a diverse community. So I'm wondering if that can be a conversation.
So Gwendy, where I would direct you to would be on board docs in the policy and procedure area to look up the procedure for the curriculum adoption. It's literally the policy just with a P after it, and that gives you specific detail into how the curriculums are selected, at what point public has input, where parents have input, where students have input, staff, and then all of the different groups of students and ways of engaging are engaged. So for example, there's a section on how special education is engaged. There's also a section on how English language learners, highly capable learners are all engaged into those processes.
So I guess what I'm asking is, in previous conversations, the term committee was thrown out to be part of the curriculum. Is that something you guys are open to having a conversation about?
Yep. So we do curriculum committees anytime we do a large curriculum purchase, or like we're replacing a curriculum. So like if we replace the math curriculum, there's a curriculum committee. That procedure outlines all of how that works. If we're doing something like we're doing right now, where we're doing supplemental, correct, Ms. Phillips, we're doing supplemental additions for a couple subject areas like science
mostly right now.
where we're not replacing the entire curriculum, but we're adding to it or looking at gaps that the curriculum has. Those do not necessarily have a curriculum committee, but they do follow a similar process.
So am I hearing there is a curriculum committee at certain times?
Correct. So when budget and need align, for example, 3 years ago when we adopted our English curriculum. We did full committee review, included teachers, and there was opportunities for community as well. So when we go to our next round, when we're doing a full cycle of whether it's math or science, we would have that same cycle, which includes stakeholders.
So how would the community find out about that? Because I've been coming to meetings and
Through Parent Square and just memos that
Okay.
are.
so those
typically
are
sent
listed in
through.
there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Furthermore, 2020 already directs the superintendent to provide for involvement of community representatives at appropriate times. So that's not just by the grace of procedure, that is also the board's direction to the superintendent.
Thank you.
All right, on to library information and technology programs. Largely language changes. It's very short, very sweet. This is optional if we want to choose it or not.
I'd just like to hear if there's anything from the administrators that, and I should have also reached out to Ms. Phillips as the curriculum head with the last one, but just making sure that we're hearing from our administrators as well on how these affect their staff.
Actually, it's kind of poetic because we have an open position for our 6 through 12 library media slash Tech TOSA. And this is exactly what we're looking for in a candidate.
I do have one minor item of it in the last, I think it's the last paragraph says parents, and that should be parents, guardians.
Good catch, Brooke.
I just want to acknowledge that the words sweet and poetic were used, and those both describe librarians.
From Mr. Patton.
I didn't
of
know
all
if I
people.
should say poetic or prophetic. So it could go either way.
Librarians are both.
Two things can be true at once.
Much prophecy is poetic. This seemed pretty straightforward.
Yep. Nothing exciting there.
Anything that jumps out for our student reps?
I was reading through it. It talks a lot about just like how libraries support state goals, but also I also think about how libraries just support students in terms of like intellectual growth and other things, which is probably my always like philosophy of school should be more than just state goals. Because when you get into that position, you're kind of focusing school on creating a hierarchy of students. But when you just focus on intellectual development and just like students learning, you can get a lot more like well-roundedness. So I just think of that in like a small sense, but like I don't know how you'd add that in there necessarily. Or if it's not already in there and I'm just missing it, it's kind of a messy.
My curiosity would be whether that would be procedure or policy.
I mean, it could be as simple as that first sentence, instruction that supports student growth and student mastery of state standards in all subject areas.
What it points to me, and it's really interesting, it's an interesting observation, thank you. What it points to for me is a question around whether our instruction supports student mastery of state standards in all subject areas and points to some other policy around district goals. Because there may be things that we want to support our students to excel in addition to and beyond state standards.
I would just say that we can always have that as a goal, but do we want to make it policy? And so if the, bar is they're meeting their state standards for technology, we can do more, right? We can always do more, but do we want a policy?
I think for now, while we're in a transitional time, sort of a boilerplate policy is probably sufficient, and we may return to it if the administration and staff feel that there's a need to be even more exemplary in how we deliver these services.
Particularly as we start working on a strategic plan in after a year.
Okay. Are we ready for kindergarten? Transitional kindergarten? Okay.
Do we get nap time?
No, they don't do nap time in kindergarten anymore. Such a bummer. Okay. So this is adding more to what our policy previously was, which was not very in depth, but basically what you're adding in the center is that the district needs to consider availability and affordability of early learning providers, other childhood, other like childhood or child care providers, because some districts partner with those agencies to provide transitional kindergarten services. So for example, if the Children's Center wanted to put 4 or 5 spots on reserve for the district, then we do that. Some districts do that. Some of the barriers and challenges with doing that is if you have students with mobility needs or students who require a higher level of support, that can often be hard to work into another existing space. There's also been some places where childcare centers would like to select which kids come in, and that can run incongruent with the nature of public education that accepts all students. So it's in there because it's an option, but I don't know very many districts that have made that work. Where it does work, and what we oftentimes see is with ECAP. And so we have other agencies that will have ECAP slots. Bellingham has a really robust ECAP program, as well as Marysville School District. They have an example with transitional program where they partner with ECAP to provide those services. I don't know that that is something that impacts South Whidbey, but that's why the language is there. So the questions I do have for Dr. Clifford and then also Ms. Richards is I'm fine with leaving language in there because I think it's important to have it. The other question I had that I want to kick over is I noticed on the bottom of page 1 where it's striking out the district's discretion to establish individuals' expectation or exceptions for students when they turn 5 years old. Because my understanding of transitional kindergarten is that the child cannot turn 5 during the year that they are in transitional kindergarten, or be 5 coming into something. There's something about 5 around that, and that's why I need them.
My understanding is that the child has to be 4 on that August 31st. They can turn 5 within the year that they're in the TK program.
Yeah, it says at least, so I don't think the additional language is necessary anymore.
Correct.
Okay. And then would we be removing that language because some districts would move the kid to kindergarten when they turn 5?
I'm not sure if that's policy in other districts, but it definitely has not been how we've been advised as we've developed our program.
Okay.
And when I look at the language right above it, it says the child is at least 4 years old by age 38, August 31st. So that says the exact same thing. So by removing this language, it doesn't prevent students from participating, even if they turn 5 during the year, as long as they're 4 before the cutoff date of August 31st.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I think this is one of those cases where striking something through opens up options.
Yep. And we don't have ECAP slots, right?
No, since they relocated, we don't have a relationship with ECAP at this point.
And I know in the past that we have partnered with Coopville to provide preschool services, and we don't have anybody going to Coopville's ECAP.
No.
Or
we informally partner with, I don't know, partner is the right word, but we work closely with the Children's Center and other local preschools to communicate and discuss best practices and those processes, but we don't have formal relationships other than with our 3-year-olds that come in for services.
Yeah. Birth to 3 services.
And I just wanted to add that I do appreciate the addition of the language above on the top of the page, because while my experience is not with ECAP in my current district, that I will be leaving soon, but we have developed and expanded a program where we have students participating through a private preschool that we have a partnership with. So this creates opportunities that could potentially open up down the road.
Awesome. Great.
I'll just share real quickly that we are open right now for enrollment in our TK program. We already have 15 folks who have applied for the program. So we're going through that process at this time.
And what's capacity for TK?
between 15 and 17.
Okay. Nice. Good job.
Speaks to the need here on the island. And I really wish that the legislature had been able to expand what we had, but I am so thankful that they were able to hold what we had.
Yep.
Because I know that that was on the line as well. There is one parents in the last sentence of the last paragraph that we'll need to make parent/guardians.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, and our last one is capital assets, theft sensitive assets. This is an essential clarification, and then there's also a little bit of updates. Minor language changes. The big one is that we're increasing the value from 5,000 to 10,000.
And for those following along at home, Mr. Field, would you be able to speak to the purpose of that real briefly? Is it just costs have changed, costs for things have changed since this was written last?
Yeah, the limit for small and attractive items has gone up. Computers and everything else have become more expensive, so keeps us from having to do items that aren't. I mean, $5,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but it lessens the burden of having to inventory every single item.
Thank you.
And that's our policy.
And that's the end of our meeting for tonight. Thank you very much. Good night. This meeting is adjourned.